नमस्कार पिरियड का कुराको यो नयाँ एपिसोडमा यहाँहरूलाई स्वागत छ। म हुँ सृष्टि। सदाझै हाम्रो पडकास्टमा महिनावारीका विविध विषयहरूमा छलफल गर्ने क्रम जारी नै छ र आज पनि हामी एउटा त्यस्तै विषय लिएर आइपुगेका छौं। हामीले विगतका एपिसोड्सहरूमा पनि मेनोपज अर्थात् रजोनवृत्तिका बारेमा धेरै कुराकानी गरेका छौं। कहिले आफ्नै आमासँग, कहिले आफ्ना हजुरआमासँग तथा कहिले यही उमेर समूहका धेरै महिलाहरूसँग कुराकानी गरेका थियौं र यो एउटा एकदमै इग्नोर टपिकको रूपमा रहेको छ नेपालमा। आज पनि हामी यही विषयमा कुराकानी गर्दैछौं, तर आज पनि हामीसँग एकजना विशेष अतिथि आउनु भएको छ। त्यही कारणले पनि यो एपिसोड भने अंग्रेजी भाषामा रहने म जानकारी गराउन चाहन्छु। आज भने हामीसँग हुनुहुन्छ नेपालका लागि अस्ट्रेलियन राजदूत फेलिसिटी फोल्क र आउनुस् उहाँसँग अब कुराकानी सुरु गरौँ। Her Excellency, welcome to our podcast, Period Kaa Kura.
Thank you so much. I'm really delighted to be able to join you today.
We just learned that the Australian Embassy had hosted a very special event focused on menopause. So how did this idea actually come up? Was this something related to your personal experience, or how did it come up?
It's an interesting story. It actually happened because I had an Australian woman, a 48-year-old. Her name is Ali Pepper. Mm-hmm. She's a mountaineer. And she came to see me to tell me about the campaign that she's running called Respect Above the Clouds. And she is seeking to break a world record. She is planning to climb the 18,000 plus peaks.
Yes.
And to do this in a world record time, not just for women but for men. She's doing it without supplemental oxygen. Mm-hmm. And I understand that previously it's taken about 16 years for anyone to achieve this.
Right.
She's hoping to do it in under 3 years. But the point that she made to me when she came to see me was that because she's a 48-year-old woman and because she is going through menopause, she has particular physiological challenges because her body is going through that experience of menopause.
Right.
And she's very keen to use her story as a way of showing for other women and for people generally that it is possible to achieve your dreams at any stage of life, even as a 48-year-old, even as someone experiencing menopause. You can put your body through the most extreme physical challenges, but also psychological and emotional challenges.
Yeah.
And when I heard her story and heard that she often talks to people about her menopause experience, I thought, this is a conversation that we all need. We need it in Australia, we need it in Nepal, and we need it globally. And I thought, what can I do here in Nepal? And I thought, I will organise a panel event bringing together a few people to speak about menopause for a broad audience, and we can start that conversation now in Nepal.
Yeah, and that's very inspirational for many Nepali women who are going through this phase or who are about to enter into this phase. I believe you are 58, so you have already passed that phase. So we would like to know about your personal experiences. How was it? Was it easy or was it difficult?
Thanks. Yes, as a 58-year-old woman, I think I've come out the other side of the perimenopausal experience and the menopausal experience. I think I probably started going into menopause in my early 40s, and I think for me it went for about 10 years, maybe even a bit longer, because I can recall throughout about a decade experiencing symptoms like depression, brain fog, a moodiness. I felt that I wasn't cognitively as sharp as I had been previously, that my memory wasn't as good, and I felt physically not as strong as I had been. Now, I didn't use any hormone replacement therapy throughout this period because I did, at that time when I was going through this, there were question marks around what we call HRT, and the possibility that it might increase risk of cancers. Now, I know the science now has shifted on, and HRT is regarded as being safe for most women, not all, and I would encourage anyone to always get good medical advice about their personal circumstances. But for me, I used a number of herbal supplements to help get me through. But it was difficult. I had a lot of night flushes. I had night sweats.
Yep.
My body temperature had changed. And as I said, it took me around 10 years to get through all of this.
That's
and
quite
come
a
out
long
the other
time.
Side. It is.
Yeah, that's quite a long time, and it must have been very confusing as well, not just difficult. But what was its impact in your social life and also in your career? Because as a diplomat, how difficult was it for you to handle?
So my period of going through menopause coincided with a time in my life where I had relatively young children. They were at school.
Yep.
And I suspect that my relationships with my daughters, I have 2 daughters, probably suffered a little bit because I was moodier, I was more irritable, and I did not explain clearly to them what was going on. I also thought it was to do with circumstances in my life. So in terms of family relationship, it was a difficult time, and I was single parenting. The children's father and I had separated, and so it was just me alone with the kids going through a difficult emotional time and physical time. Work-wise, I was working part-time, and I think that was, for me, a very good decision because it gave me a bit of space from the stress of work.
Yep.
And from all of the pressures of working full-time. And my hat goes off to women who are bringing up families, going through menopause and working full-time.
Yep.
It is the trifecta of stress, I think. But for me, I managed to have enough breaks that I could find my way through it. But it does affect a lot of women in the workplace and women's family relationships.
Totally agree. I mean, we have to face a lot of physical challenges, but then it comes to mental one as well, even the psychological one as well. So we are very glad to hear that you manage that well, also along with managing your children at that time and then your profession. So was there any light bulb moment?
Probably light bulb moments came towards the end of the whole period. I think what happens is if you're spending a decade going through menopause, you're also at a stage in life where you are more secure in yourself professionally, in your relationships. And I think there's a general acquisition of wisdom that is happening at the same time that you're going through quite a physically and emotionally challenging time. So for me, when I feel as if I got through all of this at the age of about 54 or so. So for the last 4 years, I've been in quite a stable, calm place. And I've also been here throughout that period over the last 4 years as ambassador. And so I'm in a position where I feel confident in my role, where I have a lot of leadership expectations placed on me. And I feel like I'm more comfortable in my skin now, as we say in Australia, than I have been at any other time in my life.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
It is good to hear because it is the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think when you come through menopause and you come out the other side, you realise that you don't care as much what other people think of you. You're happy with who you are. You are hopefully happy with what you've achieved in life, and you are in many ways at the peak of your professional life because you have come through various promotions, various positions, and you are often in a leadership role. So it is good, I think, for the community at large to recognise that women have a lot to offer in their 50s and beyond, and to support them through the menopause experience so that you don't lose all of that leadership and all of those skills from women who are particularly capable and particularly experienced.
This is such an inspirational message to all the women out there who feel like with age they will lose so many opportunities, especially the leadership roles and others. It might be very inspirational for them. Her Excellency, you have been working in Nepal since last 4 years?
3.5.
3.5, and then you have been visiting so many places. We see your moments, pictures in social media as well. You have been interacting with the Nepali women from different walks of life, including young women. So how familiar are you with the taboos and myths related to period in Nepal?
So when I first arrived here back in early 2021, one of the things that really struck me when I was watching media, reading newspapers, and talking to activists was, in fact, how much conversation in Nepal was occurring about menstruation. Yeah. And I was really impressed. I was really impressed with the degree of social conversation and activism. I remember seeing art exhibitions that focused on menstruation, that really brought these issues into the public domain in a way that was trying to address taboo, which is obviously deeply entrenched in Nepali culture and across different ethnic groups. But what I was seeing, I think, was very much a Kathmandu-based approach, and I know it's different outside of urban areas, and in fact it's different in different pockets of the urban areas too. It's not uniform, this important conversation. So I have travelled to the far reaches of the country. I have been in the far west, and I know Chowpadi practices are particularly prevalent there. And I've been to the Far East, I've been to the north, I've been in Solakumbu, I've been in Jumla, in Rara, in Mugu, I've been down along all of the Terai. So I've seen quite a diverse range of approaches to menstrual practices and menstrual social conversation. But what has pleased me everywhere is that I think that things are shifting. I've been to a number of schools in remote parts of the country, in places like Kaptad municipality, where there is a very active school leadership, including male leaders who are insistent that young girls should not miss out on schooling because of menstruation. They should not be put in danger because of menstruation. They should not be isolated. They should not be left in circumstances where they might be subject to sexual violence or to snake bite or to cold or loneliness or all of the psychological damaging implications of being ostracised because of menstruation. And so some of these male and female leaders at schools are making sure that there are menstrual pads, sanitary pads in school toilets. They're making sure that there are separate toilets for young girls. And so I see a lot of good practice, but I also know that there is a lot of work still to be done in this area. There are a lot of taboos, and I think all of us need to take on board an active approach to addressing this and to reminding that menstruation, all of these changes in female bodies, in male bodies, these are just natural physiological changes, maturing of the body. And there is no reason why we need to treat each other any differently simply because we're going through these different physiological processes.
Exactly. So, as you also mentioned, there are so many taboos and myths related to it, and it's a gradual process actually, because in our grandmom's generation, things were quite strict, and then in my mom's generation, it quite got flexible with the rituals and the traditions that one has to follow. And in my generation now, things have shifted quite positive direction. So I think it's a gradual process, and as you also mentioned, there is a need of joint efforts, but especially the awareness aspect. So many things have already been done by the government side, by the non-government agencies, by the local level, but yet a lot has to be done again. So while talking about this, do you have any such feeling or experience where you had feel quite weird listening to any particular myth or stigma related to menstruation? Because coming from a different part of the world to Nepal and just listening about it, and maybe gave you sort of surprise or shock? Is there any? Please feel free to share.
So I'm going to talk about two ends of the spectrum in this regard. I was surprised when I came to Nepal to hear about the practice of chapati. I knew of it, but I also thought that it had been eradicated in 2005 and again when it was criminalised in 2017. So to find out that it was still being practiced came as a surprise to me because in many ways Nepal is also a very sophisticated and contemporary society, but I know again there's great diversity across the country. So I was surprised that chapati still existed. But I was equally surprised, and again I refer to the fact that when I was looking at newspapers and I was seeing very big photographs of recreated bloodied menstrual pads as part of a demonstration or art exhibitions, I was really surprised to see the focus on menstruation through art and through activism, and I think that reflects the fact that in Australian society we're very comfortable with menstruation on the whole, to the point that we don't need to talk about it. We don't need to have activism around it. And so I was not used to seeing that. So both ends of the spectrum took me slightly by surprise. But I've been pleased to walk with Nepal on and activists on this continual journey towards just acceptance of bodily functions and menstruation as a normal part of life and not something that we either need to hide or something that we need to advertise or talk a lot about. At some point, we will just accept that this is simply the way it is and we don't even need to have much conversation anymore.
Exactly. Acceptance is key. I mean, for us, it's like a topic that needs to be talked in a very silent manner, like in the whispers or under the carpet. But when you accept that it's a natural phenomena, then there is nothing to raise issue about this, right? In a larger manner, like we have to. But unfortunately, we still have to talk about it.
We do.
Yes. And then I hope the day comes when there is no necessity at all to talk about it.
It's the same in so many aspects of our social evolution. This includes, around same-sex marriage, around sexual identity, gender identity.
Right.
You need to have the conversations until we're so talked through and talked out that we've come out the other side and we accept people exactly as they are without any need to question them or to question what's going on in their bodies. We just accept each other.
Right. And then in Nepal, period is often related to, it's only a woman's issue. So it has nothing to do with others, like other male members or even husbands or partners or sons, right? So it is always associated with only women problem. And there it comes again, menopause. So many women are suffering silently because they do not know what's going on within their own bodies. They have no knowledge about it. They have no awareness about it. So many women, they have to go through a very difficult phase. So that's also our attempt to share something about menopause. That's why we are here today. We are very glad to have you. So while talking about menopause, is it a neglected issue even in Australia, or how is the scenario there?
It is neglected in Australia, and I'm glad you've asked the question, because what I always like to highlight is, again, these issues they don't belong to Nepal, they don't belong to Australia, they're global issues. And I think generally what we're seeing is that not many communities are having conversations about menopause. In Australia, it is starting to shift. I've been struck over the last few years by the number of media articles I see about menopause. The focus in Australia is mostly around issues of, first of all, the lack of medical expertise to respond to women's need for expert health services at this time of their life. And the second issue that is frequently raised is the implications for women's professional lives, that there is an expectation that women will perform at a higher level than men, particularly in leadership positions, but across the board, because we still have to prove ourselves in what is still a relatively patriarchal, male-dominated world. And this happens particularly in certain professions. So a woman at the peak of her professional life will still be feeling that she needs to outperform a man at the same level to maintain her credibility and to win respect. Now, when you overlay that with a woman who is also experiencing physical and physiological change and some stress to her body, she will keep quiet about the fact that she is going through menopause and she is experiencing these symptoms, because she will be worried that she will be judged unfairly in the professional workplace if she talks about this. We need to change that. So professional women are not talking about menopause, and I think in our families and in our communities broadly, we do not talk about menopause. But this is starting to shift. It's led, again, by strong women. It's led by media. And I think it would be good to see the same conversations starting to occur in Nepal, because we know menopause is a universal experience. And the important thing to remember too is it's not just a woman's experience. The experience of a woman going through menopause has implications for everybody around her, and we should all be acting with compassion towards everybody in our lives: wives, mothers, daughters, husbands, brothers, fathers. Everyone deserves compassion and care from their family and from their community. But I would also make the point that we know through limited research that men also go through a form of menopause. So the conversation that women have about menopause is going to be positive for men to also talk through what they're experiencing as their bodies age and the implications for them psychologically. This is an issue for all of us to come together on, not just for women, and we certainly should not feel as women that we have to keep quiet about it. The more we talk about it, the more it will become just part of our everyday discourse, and the more we can provide support to each other.
I'm so touched by the line that everyone needs compassion, you know. So a little bit of care and compassion from the family members and from the people around you in your workplace or even in the community, that makes a lot of change, right? That makes a lot of impact, because when they are not talking about it, when they are suffering silently all alone, it gives them a lot of mental pressure, and they feel like they might be not capable of doing good things, or something is wrong in their body or in their life, and then it leads to so many other issues, obviously, like depression and even deaths. So obviously compassion, I'm so touched by this word. So a little bit of compassion can bring a lot of positive changes. Actually, my next question was about the same thing, like why is it important to talk about menopause? I think you have clearly answered that. And when it comes to Nepal or in Australia or beyond, how do you think, how can we prioritize women's health and well-being?
So we can do this in a number of very important ways. First of all, I would say that our health professionals need to receive adequate, comprehensive training about issues like menopause. It's not enough that only a small percentage of general practitioners in medicine have any idea about menopause. I would say that we call them GPs, general practitioner, every single general practitioner, there should be a component of their medical training, their bachelor degree, that is focused on women's health and including menstruation, menopause, the full cycle of fertility. And every male and female doctor should know how to respond to a woman who presents with issues around menopause. This should also happen at a specialist level. There should, of course, be specialist gynecologists and other medical specialists who are receiving particular training around these issues of menopause, fertility, and the psychological implications as well, depression that is generated by menopause and by hormonal changes. Secondly, after training, I would recommend governments allocate budget to support communications campaigns, budget to support groups, to support people like you who are having these conversations, who run these programs. So there should be government investment in women's health. There should be government investment in research about women's bodies. We know that almost all medical research up until recent years has focused on the male body. So even for common issues of health, it would be the male physiology that is well known. The pharmaceutical industry knows how much medicine to give to a male body, but this is not the same for the female body. So we need to make sure medical research gives adequate attention to women's bodies, to women's physiology. And then
I don't think it has been practiced in Nepal at all.
It's not practiced enough in Australia either. This is common. This is a common problem. And then the third thing I would say, the third measure I would recommend we take is talk, talk, talk. Be brave. Have the hard conversations. Because when you have the conversation, you realise it's actually not that hard. Anyone can talk about these issues. Talk about them with respect. And again, this comes back to fundamental human values of compassion, of respect. Listen to each other. Ask what's going on. If in a family a mother is seeming as if her mood has changed, as if she's unhappy, as if there's something going on, I would urge children, husband, extended family members to just have those gentle conversations to say, you don't seem so happy, you seem irritable, you seem depressed, you don't seem well, is there something happening? Initiate a conversation. Ask whether it might be to do with menopause. Ask if there are symptoms that the woman wants to talk about. Care for each other and have those respectful conversations and then open it up more broadly within the community, which is what we were doing on the 3rd of June with our panel event, an event that brought together very different people, a mountaineer, our beloved Annie Choyingdrolma, the Buddhist nun, someone with a huge profile who talks publicly about her menopause experience. And then Dr. Sunor Verma, who is a global health communications expert, also a cardiologist, highly trained, but someone, a man who walks the talk about gender equality and women's empowerment, and who brought a very useful perspective to the conversation, because it's not a conversation by women for women, it's a conversation for all of us that benefits all of us, that we should all participate in.
Yeah, all of us as a whole society, as a nation and beyond. Yeah. Right? You shared so many practical tips, right? And the most important thing is obviously conversation. I mean, that can unlock so many battles, I guess, in a very simple way. Thank you so much once again for sharing all these experiences and for all these recommendations, I would say. At the end, do you have any specific message to the Nepali women that could help them to have a very smooth and easy transition from the previous part to the menopause part?
I've got a few key messages. My first is, whatever your age, whatever your capability, whatever is happening in your body, you are of immense value. Do not undervalue yourself. Make sure you maintain your self-esteem, your respect, because you are immensely valuable, whatever age and whatever stage of life you're at. Have your big dreams and continue to dream and continue to realise your dreams. Secondly, I would urge Nepali women who are going through menopause, talk to each other. Everyone is having the same experience. There is nothing to worry about with having these conversations. But also, please talk to your sons, your daughters, talk to your husbands, talk to your extended family. Let them know what's going on. If they are not treating you with respect as you go through menopause, at least you've tried. You've had the conversation and you've told people what's happening. Thirdly, I would say speak out. To government, to civil society, ask for government and NGO support. And then I guess my fourth message is that you are not alone, and that this is an experience that women throughout history have been through, it is indeed a celebration. It's a celebration of the fact that you have had many fertile years, that you are maturing, that you have come to a point where you, I'm sure, have great wisdom and you have so much to offer the people around you and your community because you are a person of maturity who has been through profound experiences, and everyone will benefit from listening to you, so always speak out.
Oh, thank you so much for your wise words. Definitely, it's a celebration, and then we all need to embrace it so that we could have a very happy life, not the regretting one. Thank you so much, Her Excellency, for sharing all of these experiences with us, and we hope that this will definitely give some inspiration or motivation for the women out there to speak up and to engage in more conversations around this silenced topic. Thank you so much once again for your time and sharing.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to be with you for a while. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.